I didn't realize I was an inheritance until my daughter started measuring the windows of my bedroom for her new curtains while I was still tucked under the covers. That was the morning the fog finally lifted. I am Evelyn Vance, 72 years old, and for the last decade, I had been the silent engine of the Vance family. My husband, Arthur, had left me with a sprawling coastal estate, a portfolio that breathed money, and a heart that was far too soft for my own good. My daughter, Claire, and her husband, Julian, had moved in temporarily 5 years ago when Julian's architectural firm hit what he called a rough patch. I thought I was being a grandmother. I thought I was being a pillar. I was actually being a host body. The betrayal didn't come in a shout. It came in a whisper. On the eve of what would have been my 45th wedding anniversary, I walked past the library. The heavy oak doors were ajar. The appraiser says the north wing alone is worth $3 million. Julian's voice was slick, like oil on water. If we move her to the Sunnyside Assisted Living Center by June, we can have the renovations done before the gala. Is it ethical? Claire's voice followed. My daughter. The girl I had stayed up with through every fever. I mean, she's still functional. Functional? Julian laughed. Claire, she forgot her keys twice last week. We just need Dr. Eris to sign the cognitive decline form. One signature, and we take over the trust. It's for her own safety. Do you really want her wandering off or burning the house down? Plus, we need that capital for the offshore venture. We're drowning, Claire. There was a pause. A silence that felt like a burial. Okay, Claire whispered. But the Sunnyside suite has to be the one with the garden view. I'm not a monster. I stood in the hallway, the Scotch glass cold in my hand. I wasn't a mother anymore. I was a functional obstacle to their offshore venture. That night I didn't cry. I had cried enough when Arthur died. Instead, I did what any confused old woman would do. I opened my ledger. For 5 years, I had paid for everything. The private schooling for my grandson, Leo, who had been taught to call me Nanatium. The $110,000 to settle Julian's legal misunderstandings. The $8,000 a month in credit card bills for shoes and vintage wine. The total drainage was over $1 million. They thought I was fading. They thought the episodes of confusion, which were actually just me being tired of their constant chatter, were the beginning of the end. If they wanted a woman who couldn't manage her affairs, I would show them exactly how a confused woman spends her money. The next morning, I was bright-eyed and terrifyingly cheerful. Claire, darling, I said at breakfast, watching her flinch. I've been thinking. Life is so short. I want to do something radical. Julian's eyes lit up. He probably thought I was going to sign the house over right then. Anything, Evelyn. We just want you happy. I'm going to fund a foundation, I said, sipping my tea. The Arthur Vance Legacy for Independent Seniors. I've decided to put the house and the primary trust into a locked endowment. It will be untouchable for private use. Isn't that wonderful? It ensures the house stays in the family name forever, even if we aren't the ones living in it. The color drained from Julian's face. He looked like he'd swallowed a wasp. But the liquidity? The capital we discussed for the business? Oh, Julian. I patted his hand, my touch cold. You're so successful. You don't need my dusty old money. A man of your architectural vision should be building his own empire, not sitting in his mother-in-law's parlor. They moved faster than I expected. 3 days later, a man in a sharp suit appeared at lunch. Dr. Eris. Evelyn, he said, his voice dripping with professional concern. Claire tells me you've been having some lapses. Deciding to give away your entire estate to a foundation overnight? That's quite a drastic shift in personality. I looked at Claire. She wouldn't meet my eyes. She was looking at the crown molding, probably imagining it painted a different shade of white. Doctor, I said, leaning back, is it a lapse in judgment to stop feeding parasites? Or is it a lapse in judgment to think I wouldn't hear my daughter planning to ship me to a facility while I'm Stan? You have 48 hours, I said, my voice dropping an octave. I've spent over $1 million on your bad luck over 5 years. Consider that your inheritance. Paid in full. In advance. You can't kick us out, Julian shouted, his mask finally slipping. We have rights. We live here. Your guests, I replied. And your invitation has expired. The locks are being changed at 4 p.m. on Friday. The utilities for the guest wing are being disconnected at 4:01. And Julian? I've already sent a tip to the IRS regarding that offshore venture you mentioned in the library. I'd spend your remaining 48 hours finding a very good lawyer, not a curtains decorator. They left in a flurry of suitcases and screamed insults. Claire cried, but for the first time, her tears didn't move me. They felt like rain on a tin roof, noisy, but unable to get inside. I sat in my library that Friday evening. The house was quiet. Too quiet for some, perhaps, but for me, it was the sound of a symphony. I wasn't an ATM. I wasn't a functional problem. I was Evelyn Vance, and I was finally home. This story serves as a reminder that love should never be used as a tool for exploitation. When we allow ourselves to be treated as a resource rather than a person, we lose our identity to the greed of others. The main takeaway is this: generosity is a virtue, but it requires boundaries to remain healthy. If you find yourself in a position where your financial support is expected but your presence is tolerated only as a necessity, it is time to reassess. My advice: always maintain control over your own narrative and your own assets. Never be afraid to say no to people who only say yes to you when they need something. True family honors your legacy. They don't try to accelerate it for their own gain. Protecting yourself isn't being cold, it's being wise.